Hello, everybody. Welcome to Feedback for the week of March 6th. With me, as always, or in this case, on occasion, Eric, Nicole, Donnell. Guys, thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
Donnell, in advance, don't say that.
Got it.
Listen, a lot of big Halo news. Obviously, we've seen on X-Play on Monday the Halo preview. We have a lot of videos up online, the Halo 4 stuff. So just quickly to kind of start things off, what does Halo need to do as a franchise? I guess I should say, what does 343 need to do to keep this series relevant? What do you think, Eric?
Oof.
Your first thought, just the first thing you think they need to do.
Pinatas.
Consistency. It has to feel like a Halo game. It shouldn't play like a Call of Duty. It shouldn't play like a Mass Effect. It has to play like Halo.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about the people that say, listen, this is 343's chance to not do a Bungie Halo?
That's what I
They
say.
should be taking it in a different
I'm
direction.
one of those people.
Really?
Yeah.
Then they should make a different game and call it something else.
They,
Because
they can make Halo, but the Halo 3 trilogy ended, so should that. And so if Halo 4 is going to start this new trilogy, it needs to be something different. And I think that in order to be different, it's going to need to borrow things from BioWare games. It's going to need to borrow things from Call of Duty, and they are. They're borrowing the perk system, it sounds like. So I think that in order for this game to not be a game where everyone just complains and it follows just the model that's been successful so far, it needs to step up and be different.
That's exactly what Microsoft's going to do. They're going to deviate from the model setup that's been successful so far.
Well, they're going to, as long as Master Chief's
They're
in
going
it,
to take a
it's
chance
not
to
like
not
it's
make
gonna
money on
sell
this one.
Yep.
But, I mean, obviously, Master Chief is the protagonist again. I mean, are you talking about a completely new storyline? Or are we still set in this
It
universe?
has to be a new storyline.
No, they
Yeah.
said new storyline, new threat, though they haven't been really clear as to
I'm
what that
guessing
threat
it's
is.
some kind of aliens that want to take over everybody. That's
Or
my
is it
guess.
Master Chief himself? It's supposed to be darker in tone
Oh,
and
like
more
a
delves
twin,
into
like
his
a Dark
personality.
Link?
It could be.
Okay.
That's dumb.
And then what was interesting is that so we haven't seen this game since E3 when they showed off a little teaser, and now they put out this vid doc, and the vid doc really focuses on multiplayer and 2 maps and showing what from the outside looking in looks like Halo we've seen before, albeit prettier. But it's just interesting because you'd want to get people pumped up around Halo, and Halo is really iconic for a lot of its story elements and for a lot of the cinematics, and you don't see that in this vid doc. So I think
too early.
we were talking about before that, we weren't sure necessarily, is it going the direction we want to see? I honestly think it's going to look and feel like Halo 3, but just better, more improved, and refined. Just the same way Modern Warfare 3 plays like Modern Warfare 2, but more refined.
Right. I'm glad that you brought that up because in the comment section of the videos we do have on G4TV.com, a lot of people are saying, but it's the same Halo that I've experienced this entire time. And Donnell, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, we're really close to these things, so we feel that way, but we're also exposed to development of games. We're so close sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees, but these are fans that just buy the game. Their early experience is buying the game, and they're seeing a lot of the same things occur over the years in this franchise.
Definitely. I think it is a bad thing because usually fans, they always want new things. They don't want the same game just remade or just tweaked a little bit for a
Call
full
of Duty.
price. So, of course, they're going to have the same elements in there, like the multiplayer. They're definitely going to focus on make sure that's really tight and good because that's what makes Halo in a sense. But I think they're definitely going to try that new storyline to give him more of a personality, darker tone. I don't know if that's going to work, but we'll see. But they need to market something where it's new. Like this has never been done in the Halo series to really get people hyped for it. So,
Which is really hard to make me believe when your main protagonist is Master Chief. Like, if you're going to do something
He's
new
so
in this universe,
dynamic.
then, give me something completely different. And as they said in the video, like, we need to give them a threat that they haven't, something so big they've never encountered. I'm like, but I'm pretty sure the last threat was going to end all sentient life in the universe. So how much bigger are
Can
we
we
talking
get?
about here?
Yeah, it's a very good point. But we don't know a lot
Time
about
travel.
Master Chief.
It's going to involve time travel. I'm
think?
putting money on it
Prequel
right here.
or
Time
right now.
travel.
future?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Are we going back or going forward?
Both.
Nice. We can't
Alternate
clear
dimensions.
that. So alternate dimensions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little Doctor Who in there somewhere, some Bill and Ted. Throw all these things in.
Dr. Chief.
Okay.
Global, yeah.
All right. The one thing, though, that I think we can all agree on is that they do need to keep the multiplayer somewhat consistent because it has been such a hallmark of the series. But they are taking, like you said, from some of the other games. And personally, I think that's okay. I think at this point, we've talked about this in the past. If you steal things that work from other games, like the Old
Good on
Republic,
you.
right? Good for you. That's
Yeah.
what works. And so I can agree with them kind of just saying, hey, yeah, maybe we are taking some things here and there. But on the whole, your first thoughts on really, we've heard them talk about the game for almost 2 years now, right? I mean, we talked to Frank and Kiki last year at PAX. So a couple years now, we've finally seen the game. Your initial thoughts. What do you think of Halo 4? How does it make you feel?
I need more. I'm excited, but I need more.
Okay. Nicole?
Looks like Halo 3, but I do want to know what happened to Master Chief and Cortana.
All right. Okay.
This is what they need to do. Lay it out.
Break it down.
They need to hire Blur Studios to do a trailer for them to show off some cinematic stuff for the storyline. That's all I got to say.
Okay, but then the game might not be that good. Okay,
Okay.
we'll move on to something else. Eric, let's talk about something that was a bit of a surprise. The new entries into, I don't want to call it the Fable
Universe?
universe, I guess. Yeah, kind of a departure from the things that we've experienced in the past from Lionhead. Tell us about what's going on with Fable.
Well, we know Fable The Journey, was announced last E3, and now they're showing it in a new revised form, which I think everyone was kind of lukewarm seeing The Journey last year, a Connect-only adventure game.
Everybody
in the
thought
Fable
it
universe.
was on rails at E3,
Right.
which is not.
Which
so.
it's not, and well, Jake saw it just at a Microsoft event recently and came back raving about it, which Jake doesn't often do.
And lie.
And by that he means talk out loud. Jake literally does not talk out loud.
Only
ever.
through hand signals.
Yeah,
exactly.
So if he's talking about something, it must
He's
be
very
great.
excited. He's very excited about this horse and the fact that the horse will turn its head away from you if you try to feed it an apple. Me, I'm still on the fence. I gotta tell you, I'm not really
Really?
on board this game yet. And the other one, Heroes, is more of a kind of a beat 'em up, like a Castle Crashers. That the next BLA title you'll play, and then you can import the gold that you earn in that game into the journey. So it kind of has that pub games Fable 2 kind of dynamic there, which is
But
a neat
you're a
crossover.
puppet. I mean, I just don't understand. Like, what were they on when they thought, hey, Fable 1 and Fable 2, like, this Fable series are so great. Let's do something totally different. Yeah, let's make a board game with puppets.
Ketamine is the answer to that
Ketamine,
question.
okay.
Probably ketamine.
Right. Answer my question.
I do agree with what you're saying. I feel like, and I guess this begs the question, because it's a Connect, these are Connect titles, do you have to water down what some people consider to be the foundation of the Fable experience? Like, are they watered down because it's Connect, or are they really trying to reach this new audience and they developed with that in mind? What do you think about that?
I think they're trying to reach a new audience. So definitely, trying to use the Kinect in a very interesting way, not just how usually other companies use them as. So
like that.
exactly, just dancing.
That was the least enthusiastic commercial for Connect I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's kind of how I feel about dance games. So.
Wow. But also that just to add to Jake's, what he liked about it was that I think it just didn't have any tutorials. It just let you go out and explore. And that's what I really like in games nowadays. I hate games that kind of stop me and say the obvious things like, cover because you don't want to die. And it's like, well, of course. Like,
Oh, you're right. You're right. I
oh,
don't.
man, duh. Yeah, it's like, don't treat me like I'm a stupid idiot, Like, let me learn. Let me develop my skills.
And that's
all that
something
great
Peter
stuff.
Molyneux definitely harped on. It was that video
Definitely.
games have lost that sense of exploration. So it seems like his heart's in the right place. I don't know if taking an arrow out of my horse is the best way to convince me of it.
But he's all about that emotional relationship between you
Sure.
and a virtual
Yeah,
object.
yeah.
No, and
So-
I
I mean,
love
that's why they
horses.
chose him with the Milo thing all those years ago when they first
man.
which is
introduced
a lot
it,
of the
right?
reason why you're seeing the
Milo.
journey
It's a
be a
wild
Connect-driven feature because
Yeah.
he likes that. He likes to be able to have the user engaging directly with that. So we'll see if that goes anywhere.
And what do you think about, what does this mean for the, let's call it Fable proper, on the console experience with a controller in your hand? What do you think this means for Fable 4? Are we going to see, are they going to take what they've learned from this? Is it going to be a Connect game? What do you think is going to happen with, the next game in the, I guess, I hate to call it console Fable experience, but you guys know what I'm talking about when I say
But we're
when I
going to
say-
see, regardless of whatever Fable 4 is, it's going to have a Connect-esque feature as part of it. I mean, that's Microsoft's big gamble,
Sure.
right? They
Yep.
put everything in Connect.
And
so
Molyneux
there'll be
has
something-
said he absolutely loves
he
this
loves
technology.
it.
Yeah.
And it's going places. So
They mentioned that there's possibility for spells, to yell spells. And so, I mean, that wasn't part of this demo that Jake saw. But, I mean, in Fable 4, that could absolutely be part of it. You yell, just like in Mass Effect. You yell what you want to happen. Now, my fear for the Fable series is that if Fable 4 comes out too soon, that people are just going to be sick of hearing about Fable. Like, there's 2 games here already. And, like, who announces game after game without one coming out? So that's my concern, is that it's what happened to Assassin's Creed. It's like, I'm not ready for another one yet.
And then expanding on that, Donnell, are we going to see other, let's say these games are successful, are we going to see other companies, let's just use 343 as an example, are they going to start giving us this, I don't want to say
game?
childish skin, but like a Connect Halo game, or we're going to see major companies go, hey, we can kind of make these games for a broader audience that still have this like emotional value because people hear the name Fable and they'll automatically look to see what it is. Are we going to start seeing larger companies do games like this?
Yeah, I mean, we still have. I think a lot of companies are still seeing Connect as a child or either / dance game. Like those are the only two that you can be pretty successful at. So it's either dancing or you just pet little tigers and pandas. So
Which Connectimals, one of our faves here at G4.
I feel like there hasn't. I mean, hopefully it does deliver a more broader audience and more adult. And I think there was one like I forgot what the game title was, but it was a horror.
Rise of the
Rise of the
Nightmares?
Nightmare, right? Horror, and I was like,
Turned out it was an awful game, but it's step in the right direction.
yeah, it was like in a sense of like, yeah, it's delivering a scary, bloody, gory stuff that adults love every day.
What kind of world do you live in, man?
dark.
And what kind of childhood did you have? And Erica, I would say, I mean, there's a lot of big news that we're talking about, but probably one of the biggest things I've heard, at least on the hardware thing, in quite some time, and I'm talking to you, Nintendo, the Wii U, is not nearly, I think, as big an announcement as what we've heard about Valve and what they could potentially be doing.
I mean, it's all rumor, and who knows if this will ever happen. But the idea that there may be a Steam box, and the idea is some sort of set-top box that is probably a PC, essentially even a box.
I just don't like the name.
Probably going to need to change it from Steam Box.
Yeah.
If you went to college and you were a dude, you probably left the Steam Box on somebody's doorstep one night when you were drunk. Not the same thing. Probably going to want to change something different. But I mean, let's speculate as to what this could be, considering where they already are with their delivery system, how well it works.
They have millions of users already registered. So the idea is almost like what Roku did. It's a box that you get in your house. It needs the right price point. I don't know how they can pull off a PC that can run games like Skyrim or Mass Effect 3 on your PC.
It says all standard PC games.
Yeah, so I mean, they need that, and then it has a controller that is configurable. So if you're playing an RTS, you can use it in a different way than you would be playing a first-person shooter or an RPG. So there's
Valve did patent that controller. Like this story is a rumor, totally, but that patent is like legit.
Right. So do we think this probably has a little more weight behind it than the normal
I
hardware
mean,
rumors we
supposedly
hear?
they had gone out at CES and were showing prototypes to vendors. So, I think that there's definitely Valve wants to get into that space. Making their own box seems like a really risky thing, but who knows? They got money.
Yeah.
Right. Well, outside of the money aspect, though, what does it mean as far as their relationships with these game companies are concerned? Because suddenly, Microsoft and all of their internally developed games, they might say, no, you can't have any of this on Steam. There's absolutely no way. We have our own hardware system already. Like, what does it mean to the relationships with these publishers that are going to maybe pull their content from Steam?
But then they're pulling out of the PC market. I mean, I don't know if Microsoft would do that from a Windows platform. I mean, there's other vendors that might.
Yeah.
but-
Right.
The question might be, would EA games be playable on it because of Origin?
Yeah.
I believe they said yes. I believe they said Origin was rumored. I mean, this is all rumor again, but they said that Origin and any other Battle.net, all these would still be supported through the box.
Really?
So it's not specific to Steam and Steam only.
Now, here's what's weird. When this story broke, there was a lot of people in the community who were upset about it. A lot of PC gamers who thought this was a bad idea. And I can't wrap my head around why. Like, why would people not be excited about this?
Because people like being angry about things for no reason. You've read the internet, right?
All right, dumb question.
I'm just concerned on what it has in there, and we just don't know too much about it. So I guess that's why a lot of people are saying
Core
bad
i7
things
CPU, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and an NVIDIA GPU.
for now. And then 3 years later,
Right?
down,
How do you upgrade this?
how do you
versus upgrading
upgrade
your
it?
PC? No, that's a
And when
good
they say
point.
standard PC games, I mean, what is that really? I mean, right, guys?
Yeah, it's true.
Standard.
Wolfenstein, that's a standard PC game,
Right?
Wolfenstein.
Doom 2? Yeah,
Doom
exactly.
2.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like, I don't think they're coming out with their own system. I don't think at all. Maybe because I'm trying to think of Razer's Project Fiona, which that is its own portable. It runs Windows. It can run any high-end
It did
game.
run Skyrim.
Right, it ran Skyrim. So, it's definitely possible, but I almost feel like, if I'm a PC gamer, I just play with my PC that I've been building. I won't just buy a box.
Right.
I don't know. Just my sort of opinion on that. It's just I feel like PC gamers, they use their PCs
But
and
they
build
don't
up.
want you. They want to get mom and pop and people that don't have maybe Steam accounts or maybe that don't really use Steam
Or
that
a
often.
desk. I just don't have a desk. It's just a matter of space at this point.
Yeah.
It's all about reaching more people.
Yeah,
so it's,
I see what you're saying.
I'm with you. I build my own PC. I like to upgrade my own PC. This thing will just sit on a shelf when you buy it and be, compatible for the next couple of years. But who knows?
So
I mean,
it's really for people who don't play PC games.
Right.
Got it.
Let's say that they work out some sort of rev share program where the publishers are happy, the hardware manufacturers are happy. Is this the first step in that one console future? If we see enough people that are like, wow, you know what? We can't all make money by having all of our stuff delivered on one platform. Do we see this being almost the first real shot fired in that direction?
God.
It would have to also be an entertainment box. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's been no talk about it supporting streaming TV or DVDs or Netflix. There's no reason why it couldn't. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. I think Valve wants to launch this because they want to compete, not because they want to unify.
Until one company buys every other company, we'll never have a single user account with a single friends list and single
not.
Trophies and accomplishments. It's
Sign in with your fingerprint.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
just- I don't think. Unfortunately, I wish we could say yes, but I don't think so. There's too much money to be made for each of the individual companies to have their own proprietary system.
All right.
Also, it should have a toaster so I can cook my hot pockets in it. just
Microwave on mine.
I get
please.
Way to
hungry when
embrace
I
that
game.
stereotype, man.
All right.
Gamer wants hot pocket machine in his living room. Way to embrace the stereotype. All right,
You're
so quickly,
welcome.
before we move on to the next thing, let's just say that this thing does exist. What's a price point that'll make it competitive? What do you think they need to? I mean,
Like an Xbox. It has to be $300, $400 tops.
I mean, could we see it going lower, knowing that the back end they make just off the fact that they're not? It's going to be download only. I would assume they're not going to. You won't be able to play any physical media in there. So I mean, they save so much money on the back end. Do you think maybe they just say we'll just take a loss on the hardware? Could we see it entering at like $100? I mean, where they're just
still
like
need to have the graphics cards and all and everything in there that would make it run like a PC, and those parts are expensive.
Yeah.
So I mean, in order for them to break even, it wouldn't be able to be cheaper than an Xbox.
okay.
I think it's 300, and then later down the road, it's like it'll go down like 200, 100.
Maybe you'll have the ability to mod it yourself, and then there's
knows?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But I think it has to, I mean, if it's 100, that changes. That's a game changer. But who knows if they can pull that off.
All right.
It's a game changer.
We all know they're sitting on a pile of money, so who
Yeah.
knows,
Yeah.
right?
Who
They're not
knows?
making any games right now, so
Exactly. All right, let's move on to a fan feedback question. One of you lucky folk are going to win this right here. This is the art of the Mass Effect universe. With an introduction by Casey Hudson and Derek Watts. And I know you guys are all really big fans of Casey and Derek and their opinions, so this is worth it just for the introduction alone. We got an extra one at work, and we're giving it to one of you guys instead of taking it home with us. That's how much we like you guys.
We're
So
nice people.
one of you will get that. Not saying it's Matt Likes Chili, but we are going to ask your question. Matt Likes Chili says, good games usually spawn sequels. Franchises such as Mass Effect seem to wait an appropriate amount of time before launching me back into their universe, while Assassin's Creed makes an appearance every single year. Despite the fantastic gameplay and story of Assassin's Creed, I'm really burnt out. What factors stop or bring you back into a game franchise? And of course, we're going to get into Assassin's Creed and the big stuff that happened with them after this question, but just, what's something that would make you really burn out on a franchise? I think personally, and people either hate me or love me for this opinion, I don't really care that much about the Halo franchise because I don't feel it was amazing for what it did initially, but there hasn't been much innovation over, I think, the lifespan of the entire franchise, and so I'm a little burnt out on Halo because I don't feel like they continue to innovate at a level that I want to keep coming back in, and that's what would burn me out on a franchise. Something that would bring me back in, though, Assassin's Creed's doing it right now. 1 and 2 and Brotherhood and all that, I was like, I'm kind of over this whole thing. Oh, you want to give me a Tomahawk and it's 1777 in New York and now George Washington's in it? I will absolutely play this game because it's so completely different than what they were doing before. You said Halo, I don't even want to talk about Halo anymore, but the point is that lack of innovation is what keeps me away from things. Just completely flipping the game will bring me back in, and that's the things that I like the most. Eric, what about
I'm
you?
the same way with you for Assassins. I mean, doing a new setting. Similar, like we like the gameplay. I'm just got tired of seeing all the same setting that I'd been. So now I'm jazzed up. Burning out. I guess if I'm not into the story and the characters, then I don't want to see their continued saga. I won't play those games going onward. So like I go back and I do like the Halo games, and I think they've done an amazing job with improving the way that they do story and represent characters. And I think the more games that do that, the more that I'll continue to buy those games.
Now, is there an example that you can cite where maybe the gameplay never really innovated, but the character was so strong that you kept going back for that character? Can you think of anything?
Series?
Yeah, a series of games.
I was going to say Enslaved, because Enslaved wasn't a really great game, but it was a really good story and narrative, so I kept playing the game, but I can't think of a series that's jumping off right now that keeps me in on that realm. So
Okay.
I'm stuck.
All right. Nicole, what about you?
I'm kind of like the worst case here. Games like Call of Duty are released every year, and they don't progress a whole lot, especially since I like the single player. But I still buy them because of brand loyalty, and I've been ruined. But
Then they've beat you.
yeah, they have,
Yes.
and they own me,
They've
and
won.
I will buy all these games, and I buy the Call of Duties, and I buy the Halos, and a way for me to get burned out on the series is to not make me anticipate it, not make me want more for it, and so like Black Ops, I don't really care about Black Ops 2. I cared about Modern Warfare because I really liked SOAP. But the character soap.
No, it's,
Yeah,
No, it's cool.
It's just
it's all yours.
Tavish.
This is your story. This is what you care about. Don't worry about our opinions or our judgment.
But I do like Eric said, I care about the characters, and if the characters are important, I'll come back. But at the same time, I'll buy every single Pokemon game that comes out, regardless of changes. So don't cater to me, because I'm the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really are in
But
regards
I
to
can
Pokemon.
admit it. I can admit it.
Yeah.
Pokemon Black
That's the
and
first
White
step.
2 come out in this fall.
That's the only time that was said by somebody your age today in America just now. Don't know about you.
Well, it's quite interesting when you guys talk about, innovating, changing things in the franchise, and sometimes that hurts because I can think of a nice little blue hedgehog who turned into a werewolf. And that stopped me from going into that franchise. Like that literally
That's
put
a
this.
really sad example.
I know.
We mean sad example.
No, because it's a good example,
Yeah.
but
Oh.
what a sad thing to happen.
I know, right? So the same thing that people are getting upset for, of course, Devil May Cry. Like, well, he doesn't have silver hair, and you're changing him, and it stops people from continuing that franchise. But on the other hand, if you keep delivering the same old, you get burnt out. Like Assassin's Creed, when I was playing the third Revelations, I got burnt out. I was like, yeah, just doing what I'm doing.
Rome still has pigeon
Rome.
problem. All right.
Great. Now I can management. Great. Now I can just manage my assassins.
Yeah.
Really. It just gets repetitive. So it's that back and forth of like showing something new but not changing too much where then people freak out and say, "What have you done?" Because now I don't want to buy another Sonic game because they trick me. They always say, "Yeah, he's going fast," and look, now he turns into a dog, and it's like that's not what I asked.
Now he's in car insurance
Now he's
commercials.
in car insurance. It's
So-
like no.
And
He
so
had,
many
a,
other
he had a
games.
rough couple years, man. He had to make money in other places.
No,
you
I
know?
get it.
But
We've
I think
all-
what
we've all
brings
been
us
there.
back into a franchise is definitely, I think, like stories of the storyline and characters, especially for me, like Bioshock Infinite. It's definitely drawing me in where I want to see just amazing like storyline and just acting. I think like the acting's what really is catching my eye on that
Right.
game.
Yeah, I think story is definitely something. I mean, gameplay innovation is one thing, but Grand Theft Auto series, I think, is a great example of a series that the gameplay doesn't innovate so much over the course of everything they've done, but the fact that it's different people and different stories always makes it an engaging thing, and that's what brings me back in. But that's just me, and what do I know, right? I don't really like Halo, so I'm sure I don't know what the I'm talking about. But let's talk about things that we do like. Nicole, Assassin's Creed, huge news last week, and then finally this week
The
we get
confirmation.
the actual video of what the hell is going on, and it is massive.
Yeah, so last week we got a bunch of leaks on the internet leaking information about Assassin's Creed 3, which is the final chapter in Desmond's story for Assassin's Creed. It picks up basically after the end of Revelations. We are going to New York. That is our setting, but not just modern day New York. No,
Whoa.
we are going back to the Revolutionary War. What?
What?
Yeah,
But
they
so much
didn't
harder
have
to dome
buildings.
people with a tomahawk in
Wait, you
2012.
can't-
Giuliani cleaned all that up. Back in 1777, though,
Everywhere.
prostitutes and tomahawk killings abound.
You can't scalp people though.
You can't.
No.
Nope.
That we know of.
Right, DLC maybe, maybe.
DLC, I
so
guess.
Sorry to derail it.
Yes.
Continue,
No,
please.
okay, it's fine, it's fine. So, we are getting a new assassin this time. No more Ezio, no more Altair. Their stories ended in Revelations.
Thank God.
Yeah, it was time. So our new assassin is Connor. He is half Mohawk, half English, and so we don't know which side he fights on. Not that an assassin actually needs to take sides, but the Mohawk did fight for the British. So, but on the cover, he's attacking a redcoat. So my guess is that he's not taking a side at all. And so it's probably going to go back and forth between Revolutionary times New York and modern day New York and Boston, because in New York is where the Grand Temple is located. And the Grand Temple is the key to stopping the second disaster that would wipe out humanity again.
No.
Yeah.
Is Nick Cage in this game at all?
You
Because
don't
stealing
say.
the Grand Temple is something that Nick Cage would want to do
Yeah.
pretty much immediately.
It's a map.
But so they have this new character, obviously, but they are remaining so true to this time period that George Washington is actually in this game.
Yeah.
Like the George
He was
Washington.
in
And Ben
all-
Franklin.
He
And
was
Ben
in the
Franklin.
screen art, and then all of a sudden the trailer appeared, and like George Washington's there riding on a horse, leading people into battle. And I'm
Making
like,
speeches.
yeah. I'm curious as to how a bunch of because they're not Ubisoft's not an American developer or publisher, and so I'm curious as to how they're gonna make the Revolutionary War.
Oh, the French are huge fans of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So
Right?
I'm sure that
We'll be
they'll make
represented
it
great.
Yeah, we'll be fantastic in this game. But what does this mean for the series? Obviously, we touched upon it before, but this is a game that comes out every year. It does well every year. As much as I hate to admit this, it probably would have continued to do well if they would have kept doing what they're doing. So for whatever reason, they said, you know what, let's do something completely different. I have a ton of respect for the decision they've made here, but more so than that, why do you think they made this decision? Why are we here now?
I mean, from what we understand, and I don't know if this is fact or not, but from what we understand, Revelations and Brotherhood were going to essentially be, part of a larger game, and then ended up being to kind of buy us a year to get 3, so that they could do this big leap. Because they probably were getting bored with it too, right? I mean, can you imagine them just doing the same thing to some extent over and over again?
Walking around all these cool cities overseas, taking pictures must have really started to suck
they
after a while.
But I'm never was really into the storylines of the Assassin's Creed stories.
What?
I know that's weird. I just found it being a little overbearing, and I was more into the gameplay, and the gameplay got better over time. But now, when this has this kind of Red Dead Redemption vibe,
Red Dead Redemption with trees.
Yeah.
Really big trees.
That's got me. I'm really excited about it because I think the core gameplay is fun in the series.
Right. And what did you feel about it? I mean, what was your first thought? You saw the trailer this morning, and this is after a week. There was more speculation on the internet this weekend than I can remember for
Probably
any
enough to us.
game.
Yeah.
In memory. I mean, could you guys remember the last time somebody was people were speculating this much about a game? I thought it was so genius that this stuff got leaked last
It was
weekend.
just so
Monday.
much
It was
fun
such
to
a
speculate
great
because you got to look at Wikipedia, which is where you find about anything.
Yeah.
It's all valid information. Which
God,
is
your generation is so different than ours.
Where else are you going to find like
You're absolutely
knowledge?
right. You were absolutely right. Things were different back then for.
But you got to do like
For
this
us
internet sleuthing, and you get to find out what happened in that time period, and you got to find out in the very beginning we didn't know for sure that it would be colonial America, and then we saw the flag with the 13 stars, and it kind of just gave this. It kind of reminded me of the experience that the Secret World wants to offer you, and that you'll be able to like have something in game and then stop your game and go look it up on Google. And so I like that. I was a detective and trying to figure out what this game is going to be about. And that's exciting because I'm involved. It's not a game company giving me a press release. It's me doing research and trying to figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well done.
I learned a lot.
Yeah, that's good.
Journalism.
You had such an educational
About
weekend.
America.
Yeah. I drank a bunch of scotch and watched Project X this weekend. That's what I did. But your weekend was awesome too. But what do you guys think? I know they haven't really talked about this at all, but there's been a lot of speculation. You obviously did a ton of research on it. How does this fit into the bigger picture of Assassin's Creed and the franchise? Like, what are people saying online? What are the rumblings online about how this game fits?
I think they're mostly talking about, and this is just a little bit of on the previous question, but it's a little bit on like the environment. Like, I think a lot of people are asking about like, well, back in the days, we're so used to in the other previous Assassin's Creed buildings and really tall, and you're climbing up big, and it's like parkour. Now you're in trees and in snow, and these buildings are not 5 stories high. They're small. So how is
Like a story with some hay.
yeah, how are we going to play like an assassin in that sort of environment? And I think that's also back to Eric's answer to it, is that I think the developers are like, let's challenge ourselves. Let's put it into an environment where we really need to be innovating and really make it, still fun and still similar, but adding this new and I feel like survival type. I feel like that's what they're going for. Is like you're going in the woods, maybe you'll hunt down a bear. I don't know.
I hope it doesn't
Maybe
set the
you'll
wrong
kill
expectation
squirrels.
for me though. Like I'm going in there
Yeah.
thinking of that because
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the game that they're making. I think it's still going to be an Assassin's Creed game, and I think cut to October and this game's really just New York in the 18th century. And it's,
I'm in New York.
Yeah.
That's my New York.
Is that as appealing? I don't know.
Remember what I said earlier about don't say that?
Got it.
That's the moment.
That
That was the moment right
right
there.
there.
And let's talk about the multiplayer, right? Because it's going to have a component.
Yeah.
Are we going to be
I
able to fight as
wonder.
people can I carry a musket around
Probably
and wear a
not.
red coat?
And
and
will it
shoot
take
people.
15 minutes to load the gun? I
Yeah.
hope so.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it going to
Are
have
they
little
gonna be-
guns instead of blades?
Well, though you still have the blades,
Yeah.
but in the trailer he did shoot something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Web sling.
No,
Is Spider-Man in this
it's
game?
still-
Exactly.
That's
I didn't
how,
see that part.
That's how he doesn't do this.
Yeah, you
but
must have dug deep on the internet this weekend to find Spider-Man.
It's probably
in that trailer,
still a
'cause I didn't see
pistol.
that at all.
Still a
Yeah.
pistol from the other one, but there's like a bow and arrow
Yeah.
and tomahawk,
The
as we
tomahawk,
saw. So
And I'm sure there'll be upgrades because Assassin's Creed you could customize to an extent.
But Ben Franklin won't be your inventor guy. They did say that.
I mean, that's crap though. Of course he's gonna be. He's
He
an
should
inventor.
be. Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna
knows?
be.
I wanted to see how much more indignant you would get about Ben Franklin because that's not
Gonna
something I
be.
expected.
well, it would be amazing flying the kite, he's running with electricity, and just come up behind him and then assassinate him. And then now time paradox, you know.
Yeah. And then
Boom.
we're still in the dark ages. We're still reading by candlelight. It's good that he didn't exist
And
back then.
his name is Connor, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that? I feel like that's hilarious. Like,
But he does have an
Connor.
Indian name too. I believe that I read somewhere that he does have an Indian name.
So it's like American.
Dances with
American.
Just a guess.
Okay.
That'd be one of the worst
good
games
guess.
of all time. Maybe that'd be a dance game that you would enjoy, though. Would
Maybe.
Dances with Assassins work for you?
Yes,
As a Connect
better.
game?
Connect
Better.
game. Oh.
All right, pay attention, Ubisoft. In development right now. And then, as far as Desmond's story is concerned, where does this fit in? And again, this is as someone who's not as familiar with the franchise as you probably are. How does this kind of close this chapter? Or how what are people saying? How are they speculating it's going to close it out?
Well, the entire series has been building up to 2012, which is why this game has to come out this year. And
Right.
so in 2012, the higher beings, which aren't really gods, but it's Minerva and Juno, Jupiter, they are throughout the games warning Desmond that the world's going to end because of some solar flare or something. And so that's going to happen in 2012. So finding the Grand Temple is key to saving humanity, and that has to happen in 2012, otherwise we all die.
See,
Okay.
this is just why I haven't been into this series.
I mean, it's pretty ridiculous.
Right there.
Come on.
It's just
End
in
of
a
the
place that- I mean,
world.
I just don't expect that from the Animus and all that stuff. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just never bought it. So whatever.
Did you play Assassin's Creed 2 when
Yeah.
Minerva broke the fourth wall and she was like talking to you? Oh my god, I flipped out.
Yeah,
No one else though?
it happened.
No, no. Good for you. That's so good for you. Good for your experience.
All right then.
No, I do think though that this is gonna. I think it's this game is probably more for people like Eric and I who wanted to get into it, but were a little weren't really interested in the story. This is. I think they're doing this more maybe for people like you and I who can appreciate the gameplay and what they've been able to do with the way that the game plays. But now I think it's something
And we're
a little more
xenophobic, so this way it's more
yeah,
about us.
right. It really is America. So mashed potatoes. Actually has a question that we kind of already answered with Matt likes chili, but I guess we'll just say this since his name's on this paper. Do you think Assassin's Creed as a franchise is hurting itself by going down the yearly release path? Nicole, what have the numbers been tracking like? They do sell well every year,
They do
right?
sell well. Revelations definitely wasn't the best-selling game in the series, and I think that has a lot to do with being burnt on the series, being burnt out on Ezio, but also being released in that November time period last year. I mean, it was insane. I mean, it was kind of suffered the same fate as Saints Row the Third, where it kind of got overshadowed by games like Skyrim, Battlefield, Call of Duty. So I think that it hurt Revelations, but I don't think it's going to hurt 3. And I don't know why some games like Call of Duty aren't hurt by the annual release pattern, because they're not at all. But a game like Assassin's Creed, yeah, it is.
I think maybe because Call of Duty does have that multiplayer experience that, I mean, Assassins has a multiplayer experience
Yeah.
as well,
But it's not why you
people
buy it.
play Assassins for the single player experience and maybe people just don't want to see. But do we think that this game is going to sell really well considering it is such a departure from the story that we've seen in the
Yeah,
past?
I
For
think
sure.
so.
I kind of also feel like it's not going to be the final chapter. I think they're going to release
It's
next
going to
year.
be an Assassin's Creed 4?
No, it's going to be Assassin's Creed 3, you know, Viva la Revolution or something like that.
All
Right. Well, after 2,
I'll
there's
skip that one.
Revelations.
That
They
sounds
tried, though,
terrible.
guys.
That's good though. That's good. Are they going to continue to release every year though? I mean, do
There'll
we
be
just
an
see this
Assassin-
happening?
I imagine you'll see an Assassin's Creed
Yeah.
something next year.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
hope not. After Assassin's Creed 3, I'm ready to be done for a while.
All right.
And I'm a fan, so we need a break.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, you can play Mass Effect 3.
Okay.
Which is our
What?
game that we're talking about this week. Obviously, I mean, to this point, the most anticipated game of 2012.
Of my
I think we can
life,
all agree
maybe?
on that, and of
Wow.
your life as well. Nicole, you put in quite
Heavy
a bit of
words.
time into the game
Yeah.
over the weekend. Before we get into kind of your experience, let's talk about the first few hours of the game. It's typically, you know, it's not the happiest moment in a Mass Effect game, but Mass Effect 3 starts off, it's just such a bummer. Like, it's such a dark departure from, I think, what the other two series were kind of establishing. So let's just talk about, Nicole, quickly, where we are in the Mass Effect series.
So Mass Effect 3 picks up 6 months after the end of Mass Effect 2. You've been put on house arrest. Basically, nobody believes you still, even though you killed the Reaper.
I love that. I
They-
love how it's like,
they
wait,
still
I
don't
saved
believe
your
you.
guy. I saved your
I got
ass.
pictures right here
Yeah.
on my
And-
iPhone 32 or whatever it's going to be
Well,
at
I
that
imagine.
time.
I
They
imagine.
never believe me.
Yeah. So strange signals are appearing on the radar, and so as Shepard goes to have a meeting with the council, the Reapers invade Earth, and they just basically blow up. And
at this point, people believe you.
well, it's
were
kind
telling
of
the
hard
truth.
to deny it when there's like 30 giant reapers in I think it's Vancouver is where they based that opening scene on. So that's where the game sets up, and basically everyone's dying, and you have to leave Earth to go convince the council, and because just the Alliance is on board because that's Earth, and basically none of the other aliens care about saving humans because they need to take care of their own species. So that's where the game's set up. All you know is that you need to win everybody over, you need to unify everybody, and you need to kick some Reaper ass.
All right, that was very spoiler free. Well done, by the
Good
way,
job.
on that.
It's all in the demo, so if you haven't played the game yet, it wouldn't be.
That was really well done, though. Very top line. So before we get into the actual game, obviously one of the biggest hallmarks of this series is the fact that not only can you carry over your character, but the decisions you make will affect the game in 2 and 3. So did you carry over your character? What were you playing as? And how does it feel to have your fem shep or male shep in part 3?
I thought it was awesome. I love that about the series, and it tells you exactly kind of some of the big story beats from the previous game of what you did. So it kind of reminded me, oh yeah, I saved that, and oh yeah, I killed that. That carried over. It was great. But what is amazing is in the game how much it reaches deep into DLC from Mass Effect 2 or previous games to kind of bring up a character or a situation. And I'm really curious to see how it plays without knowing what any of that stuff was if I was to start from scratch. But I definitely carried over. I mean, I think most of the game for me is on those relationships with those characters and knowing about that world. So that was important.
He has a thing for Tali. You guys-
Tali, she gave me a picture.
Oh, adorable. Most people know that this particular franchise, like a lot of people make promises like the decisions you make in this game will affect your gameplay later on, but most people maybe don't come through as much as the Mass Effect series had. So many people I know, Nicole and I are like kind of on this email list, and so many people were like on this email list were like, okay, we know Mass Effect 3 is going to be amazing, but we didn't play 1 and 2, so we're going to play through 1 and 2 this week just so we can carry over.
and they made the right choice.
And they did make the right choice, but let's talk about maybe the people that have never played this game before. Do you think they're going to have the same experience as people like us who have committed so much time into this?
They can't. I mean, they can't have the same exact experience that I did because I was just so in love with every person on that game. Every alien on the Normandy 1 and 2, I was so attached to, and I had 2 games, each where I put in 50 some odd hours into. So I had this like emotional connection there that new gamers won't have. But that doesn't mean they're not going to have one of the best gaming experiences they're going to have. It's just they make sure to catch you up to speed if you're not, because even some of the DLC that I bought that I forgot that I had, it reminded me. It reminded me of the things that I had accomplished and didn't get to or didn't remember. So I definitely think this game does things to encourage new gamers to play, and especially with the action mode, story mode, and RPG mode, you can choose how you want to play. So if you want to play action and you don't want any of those cutscenes, then you can just shoot things. And if you just want the story because you suck at shooting things, then you can just watch the cutscenes and have an easy time playing. Or if you want the old school experience, you can play RPG. So I think that they did a lot to cater to new fans while not pissing off the old ones.
Okay. And speaking of the action mode, the combat, I mean, my experience, and I had a very limited experience this weekend, but the first thing that really stood out to me outside of the story elements and things like that carrying over was the fact that combat it's not more difficult in the foundation of the combat is more difficult, but I feel like the enemy AI is so vastly improved from the first 2 games that the combat feels much harder than I think it probably really is. Did you guys experience that at all?
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting comment right there because the ending of Mass Effect 3.
Slow motion.
Just kidding. I got you guys.
No, remember when I said don't say that? That's the moment where
Okay.
that's what I meant. I meant that moment, not the other time. Or maybe both times,
got
actually.
you guys. Sorry, what was the question again?
Enemy AI.
Enemy AI.
Talk about
yes.
Banshee.
Oh man, what a bitch! I will say. Basically, she can like teleport right in front of you, like
It's so scary.
in a flash. And she has like, I feel like there's 2 barriers on her. Like sometimes like around in certain levels, I probably won't spoil too much, but it like
Wait, there
she
are
gets
levels in this
even
game?
more powerful. And like she can throw a projectile. She can like scream. She actually can do a melee. That's a 1-hit kill. I mean, it's just so annoying when anytime I hear her and I see her because I'm like, I shoot, I throw, I can't do anything.
But you're not only
I'm freaking
you're
out.
fighting other people too, so they're flanking
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
They're taking cover. They come out. I mean, it's definitely they've improved that game. If you play Mass Effect 1 and then you go to play Mass Effect 2 and then you play Mass Effect 3, you see a noticeable improvement in the way that the combat in that game plays.
And the way the guns sound. I think DICE did the bullet sounds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it just sounds amazing. It's like how bullets should sound.
With your vast experience of real world bullets.
I shot a gun once in Vegas.
All right.
So
Then you're right. You are an
Bang,
expert. I'm
bang.
so sorry. And what about the Kinect? Did any of you guys mess with the Kinect controls
love
at all?
Love it, love
You
it,
do?
love it. I mean,
Preach it.
I have been a big fan of Kinect. I think not so much as tech, but I think as voice recognition and some of the movement stuff that we're seeing down there. But this was the first game that actually was really using Kinect. I was ordering squad mates to do powers, not so much to move because I found that difficult, but to say, Tali, sabotage. And I would say that out loud. I know I probably look like a dork. But sometimes I'd be watching a cutscene and I'd be eating or doing something and I'd put down the controller and then actually say like, no, don't do that. Or yeah, let's kill him or something like that. And it worked every time.
Here's my question. You know when those cutscenes come up and you have to press the L trigger, the right trigger?
Yeah, the Paragon Renegade stuff. I
Okay,
don't think
because I was about to say,
that I don't think
here's
there's
the
a Kinect
scenario.
option for.
He puts it down. Yeah, I don't know.
That happened.
Good. Oh, no. I punched her in the face. I didn't want to punch her. I just wanted to threaten her.
That happened and I missed one. That
Okay.
happened and I missed one. And then I kept it really close from that point on. But
see?
I don't know, maybe I could have said Renegade or Paragon. I don't know. You know, they never taught me how to use it. And I never read the manual because who reads manuals
Gotta
anymore?
get
I just
cheat
jumped
sheet.
right in. So, but I loved it. I thought it was great. And I see the future. Voice recognition is amazing. It's just that if it could understand and intuit what I was saying, like, hey, Tali, go over to that door over there, and she did it, it would be so much better than move and have to have my cursor pointing at that. But eventually they'll get there. That's the way I look at it. I'm
And
an
you
optimist.
were in the I mean, there was a lot of combat going on in it. Everything was
It's
perfectly
a
okay.
different game because if you stop and do powers every 5 seconds or whatever, just to kind of optimize everything, it's a
I
very
do.
different game. No, and I get it. It's a more tactical game, and you probably for Insanity you're going to have to do that. But I wanted to try it as a more free flowing. This is combat. This is going on, and let's just be. And sometimes I would start like, Liara, do overload.
Shoot,
Shoot at that person shooting at me.
Yeah, if I knew the power names, I could do it, but I would always forget. But it was kind of frantic and kinetic, and kind of like a little bit of what you think combat really is like when
I
you're
wonder
fighting
if you
aliens.
can do Metagel. If you can yell Metagel and you'll heal.
First aid.
First aid.
Oh man, that's gonna change a lot of things.
And revive, you can go up to them and hit revive, and then but
can you
which
yell
is
revive?
easier than sometimes running over and
Get
hitting
up.
the A button. That was really hard, like finding them on the ground to revive them versus just going over to them and
Yeah,
saying
no.
revive works pretty well.
So it sounds like it works really well. All
I
right,
loved
great.
it. I can't.
Okay.
I had one incident of where my sister walked into the room and like she wouldn't leave, and so she was just talking to me about something, and I'm like, you have to leave. And a dialogue scene came up, and she made me choose a dialogue that I did not want, and there was nothing I could do about it, and so there's flaws.
Wow.
Yeah, I need to know the difference between my sister
Don't
and
have
I.
Nicole's sister.
Yet
in the
another
room.
extraordinary example gleaned from your personal lives. And multiplayer. Any of you guys mess with multiplayer at all?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
What do you think of it?
It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily. I mean, I played it. I liked it. I don't necessarily. I think that if they didn't tell me that it affected single player, that it could affect single player, it would improve my chances of having the best ending possible. I don't know how much time I would spend with it. Because they told me that, then I care because I bought Mass Effect for the story. I don't really care about the multiplayer, no matter how amazing they made it. Because they gave me that reason to play it, I'm going to play it.
I mean, everybody knows, they know people are buying this for this epic
Yeah.
single-player story, but the multiplayer mode is not something that's tacked
They
on.
want
I mean,
you to
it's a-
hang on to it. They
Yeah,
don't want you to return
exactly.
it after you
Keep
beat
buying
it.
those
Exactly.
DLC packs for it, I'm sure.
And I mean, that's brilliant. The idea that you pay 80 points, 160 points to buy these little
Packs.
card boosters is.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like it. I think it fits in well with the storyline. And is it something I'm going to be playing 6 months from now? Probably not. But for now, especially in this drought where there's not really any other major games out there that multiplayer games, I'll be
gonna tide
playing
you
for a
over.
while. Yeah.
All right. I think we can all agree that this is a must-buy. 100%.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
absolute
Please
must-buy.
buy it.
Please buy it.
You should
Nicole
already be
says.
owning it at
Yeah.
this point. You know.
All right. So quickly before we wrap out of here, one more fan question in regards to the Mass Effect trilogy. Dacus Q7 or Deacus Q7 says, "What would you recommend as a fan on how to continue the Mass Effect series after this trilogy?" Donnell, what do you think? What do you think they do?
Uh-oh.
Let's hear it.
Well, you see, guys, there's a zone out there in the deepest reaches of space called the Donnell Zone.
And
that
Commander Shepard has to enter.
Fem Shep has to clarify, man. People
well,
are questioning.
I
right
keep
now.
it open.
There it is.
Right
I'm
there.
going to drop my suit a little bit. I'm
And
going to escape that.
boom.
Yep.
No, I think they could take it to an MMORPG. I kind of feel like it's such a big galaxy, so many races, so many politicians, and I don't like you and you don't like me, and that's just like an MMORPG right there. So
That just screams
that's
it.
the next where it's heading to.
All right.
I feel like MMO is the easy answer there, and they've mentioned it in the past that it's something that they would consider. I don't think that after they spent so much time and money on making a space MMO called SWTOR, that BioWare is necessarily going to jump right into that. But I definitely think that this series is not done. And one of the commenters asked, Halo 3 was supposed to end after a trilogy. God of War was supposed to end after a trilogy. Do we really think this is going to end? Like, I mean, unless Shepard dies, like, it could keep going forever. And you know what? Shepard's already died in 2. So I mean, that means nothing. So if it were up to me, I would love to see the series keep going.
Well, God of War and even Halo, I never really felt like Kratos or Master Chief. What BioWare has done really well is I feel like Commander Shepard. I feel like those are my decisions. This is my game. This is what I've controlled. So I assume that even if Shepard does die, if they just allow me to craft my own experience again, regardless of who I'm skinned as, I think I'll still really enjoy this universe that they've created. I mean,
I wouldn't be surprised, though, if they go in a little bit of a different direction. I mean, I think we'll always see a Mass Effect story-based game, RPG. But, I mean, they're obviously getting their toes wet in combat and action. And what if they made a Mass Effect special squad unit, you know,
Mass Effect
2K12.
ODST.
Yeah, exactly. And took them around the universe, fighting different aliens and doing really integrated missions, going more in that route. They could do that.
Where do you think that would take place in the universe?
Well, I don't know how this one ends.
But
In the younger years, when Shepard was just a teen.
yeah, it could be during their
exploring
first war.
exploring the Donnell zone when he was experimenting.
But there could be the first contact war where they faced off with the Turians, and it could be some sort of space combat, ground combat game where, you know, it's a prequel to Mass Effect 1, and I think that would be awesome.
Yeah. This it's not going to end. I mean, we can all agree on that.
It prints way too much money.
Yeah, it is not going to end. So in conclusion, everybody go out and buy this game. It's amazing. We do recommend that you play the first 2 first because the whole experience is really what you're going to get if you play the first 2, but you don't have to. Guys, thank you so much for being here. As always, this is normally where I give you a chance to talk about something that you're doing, but I'm not going to do that today.
We all do the same thing on the same website.
And also, he's been kind of hinting at something really creepy this entire episode. So I think, you know what? Actually, only Donnell. You can sign off right now, sir. Donnell, just sign off to any one of these cameras we have in here.
Camera 2, right here.
Don't forget to say that new episodes go up every week at g4tv.com/feedback. Just don't forget to say that. It's all yours.
You can follow me on Twitter, the Donnell Zone, of course. And also, I like to end it like this. Is my voice acting?